Hey guys, Gamers here. It's only days away from the early access of PoE 2, and while we are waiting for that day to come, I want to share to you guys some of the starter builds that I want to try. In this video, I'm only going to talk about one build, and that is Ignite plus Summon Raging Spirits. And without further ado, let's begin the video. First of all, I want to talk about the new mechanic that PoE 2 added in the game, and that is Spirit. Usually in PoE 1, we use auras that reserves mana when you activate them. In PoE 2, they removed that mechanic and added Spirit, which you reserve to activate passive gems like auras. Now, with all that said, let's talk about Summon Raging Spirits. Summon Raging Spirit is a spirit gem or passive gem like aura gems, and when you activate Summon Raging Spirit, it will reserve some of your spirits and will be able to summon them by hitting the enemies with fire spells. This kind of forces you to be a hybrid spellcaster slash summoner build. It also says here that Summon Raging Spirit only lasts for 4 seconds and the maximum number you can summon is 10. So to maximize your damage, you need to summon 10 Summon Raging Spirit within 4 seconds. Or you can prolong the duration of your minions so you will have more time to summon them all. Now I want to talk about the fire spells that you can use to inflict Ignite and Summon Raging Spirits. As you can see here, it says that fire area spells can summon a spirit per 1.5 meters of radius. This immediately made me think of Flame Blast. Before I continue, in PoE 2, all fire hits can inflict Ignite. The harder you hit the enemies with fire damage, the higher the chance that you will inflict Ignite. Now with that said, let's continue. Flame Blast is a channeling fire spell, and the longer you channel, the higher the damage you will inflict. Now I know it says here that it has a very low flat fire damage, but the 200 more damage per stage is a lot. Plus, the longer you channel, the bigger the area of effect, which means you will be able to summon multiple Summon Raging Spirits. I think this spell can inflict the highest Ignite damage. That's why I'm really hoping that this spell is good enough to summon 10 Summon Raging Spirits in a short period of time. Next, I want to talk about Fireball. Casting this spell will fire projectile towards the enemies and it will explode on impact, hitting multiple enemies if they are standing close together. You can spam this spell so you can keep summoning Summon Raging Spirits. If you support it with multiple projectile, you will be able to hit even more enemies. And because of this, I think you will be able to summon more Summon Raging Spirit with just one cast. The next spell that I want to talk about is Volcano. I think this is a new skill in PoE 2 and I'm not sure exactly how this actually works. What I understand is when you cast this spell, you will create a volcano that fires projectiles. Channeling this skill makes the volcano fire even more projectiles. I think this might be a really good fire spell for summoning SRS. Plus, it has a 25% ignite chance and it has a really good amount of flat fire damage. The last fire spell that I want to talk about is Solar Orb. Casting this spell will create a stationary orb that will constantly hit nearby enemies with fire damage. Using this spell by itself is terrible because as you can see it has a very low flat fire damage and it only pulses every 1.4 seconds. The reason I'm mentioning this spell is because you can use this as secondary spell to help you summon even more Summon Raging Spirits. These are not the only fire spells in PoE 2 and I still need to experiment which fire spell is the best for this build. Ideally, the best fire spell that you can use for this build is a fire spell that can inflict a good amount of ignite damage and fast enough to summon all of your Summon Raging Spirits in a short period of time. Now let's talk about the support gems for your fire spell. The first support gem is Searing Flame. This gem will lessen the hit damage of your fire spell, but will significantly boost the damage of your ignite. So this support gem is a no-brainer for every ignite build. Next is Ignite Proliferation. To simply put, this will boost your clear speed during mapping. Next is Fire Exposure. With this, your fire spell will inflict fire exposure debuff to the ignited enemies. For those of you who don't know, fire exposure debuff reduces the fire resistance. This is really good because the fire exposure debuff will boost the damage of your ignite as well as the damage of your summon raging spirits. If you're planning of using a secondary spell like Solar Orb, then it's better to use this support gem on your secondary fire spell so that your main fire spell will not be affected by the 25% less damage. For additional damage, you can use Empowered Damage and Fire Mastery. And another support gem that I want to mention is Ignition, which it says here it will give you more chance to ignite enemies. Those are the support gems for your fire spells, and now let's talk about the support gems that we're going to use for the summon raging spirits. The first support gem is Feeding Frenzy, and Feeding Frenzy will give 30% more damage to your minions, but your minions will take 20% more damage. But thankfully, your summon raging spirits cannot be directly attacked by the enemies. The next support gem is Immolate. When we ignite the enemies with our fire spells, your summon raging spirits will gain additional 30% damage thanks to this support gem. Next is Added Fire Damage. Added Fire Damage gives 25% of your total damage as extra fire damage. I think these three are the best support gems that you can use on your summon raging spirits. There are still a few numbers of good support gems that you can use on your SRS, but I'm not sure which of them are the best ones to use. These are the few support gems that you can use for your summon raging spirits. Faster attacks, fire penetration, minion mastery, elemental focus for 25% more elemental damage, and additional accuracy. I will also be using flammability to reduce the enemy's fire resistance, and I will also be using Whispers of Doom for an additional curse, so I can use Enfeeble to lessen the enemy's damage. I will also be using Blasphemy on my curses so I can turn them into auras. Lastly, I don't know how much total spirit I can have by the time I reach endgame, but if I have enough spirits, I might be able to add either Skeleton Arsonist or Skeletal Warriors. Skeleton Arsonist throws bombs dealing fire damage to enemies. It also has the ability to detonate your minions that is in low life, dealing fire damage to nearby enemies. Mainly, I just want to use this for additional damage. Or I could use Skeletal Warriors, which mainly I would use to tank for me. And I will support them with Meat Shield for more max life and minion stability, so the minions will explode when they reach low life, dealing fire damage. Or you can also use meta gems like Cast on Ignite and Cast on Minion Death. There's still a lot of gems that you can use for this build, and I still don't know which of them is the best to use, so I will update this build in the future. Lastly, for the Ascendancy, I'm assuming Infernalist will have some Ascendancy nodes that will boost your minions, just because the image of the Infernalist has Summon Raging Spirits in it. Again, I'm not sure, so we will see when the early access comes. Anyways, that is all I can say about this starter build for the upcoming early access of PoE 2, and if you have any questions, leave them on the comment section and I will try my best to answer them. But I'm not sure about a lot of things too because the game hasn't come out yet. So anyways, thank you guys for watching, and if you like this video, please give a like and subscribe to my channel. I'd really much appreciate it, and see you guys on the next video.